Human-caused climate change will increase the strength of storms and raise sea levels. These will have the greatest effects on the coast. Before human involvement, the carbon cycle worked like this. There was CO2 in the atmosphere that is taken in by a plant during photosynthesis. Then, the plant either does respiration, which releases the CO2 back into the atmosphere, dies and decomposes, which also releases the CO2 back into the atmosphere, or gets eaten and releases CO2 back into the atmosphere. Before human involvement, the heat balance was when sunlight reached the Earth and was either reflected by clouds, ice caps, and or other particles. If the sunlight does not get reflected, the rays hit the Earth's surface and changes from a short wavelength to a long wavelength, and is radiated back into the atmosphere. The long wavelengths, however, cannot get past the greenhouse gases. Now I will tell you a story about Bob. Bob was waiting for the cable guy to come and fix his cable box. Bob had been waiting for a total of 2 minutes before he got bored. When Bob gets bored, he starts cutting down trees. When Bob cuts down trees, Bob releases the CO2 inside of them, much quicker than if they were to decay over time. When Bob is finished cutting down trees, he burns them. Burning down trees releases the CO2 inside of the trees even faster than cutting them down. When Bob finishes burning down trees, Bob starts populating the Earth. 9 months later, when Bob has octuplets, there are now 8 more people breathing and releasing CO2 into the atmosphere. When Bob's octuplets get hungry from waiting for the cable guy with Bob, Bob buys them steak. When Bob buys steak, he promotes cow raising. When cow raising happens, cows eat grass. When cows eat grass, they fart lots of methane, which is a greenhouse gas, because grass is hard to digest. When cows fart methane, they affect the heat balance by releasing greenhouse gases. When Bob feeds his kids steak, they grow up and work in factories. When people work in factories, factories create landfills for space. When Bob gets bored of watching his now fully grown octuplets work in a factory, Bob starts mining coal. When Bob mines coal, Bob releases lots of methane into the atmosphere. When Bob releases lots of methane into the atmosphere, he affects the heat balance. When Bob affects the heat balance, Bob gets hot. When Bob gets hot, he drives his air-conditioned car that runs off of fossil fuels that were formed millions of years ago to work in the coal mines. When Bob's actions had large effects on Earth's atmosphere, but what were they? Well, when Bob was deforesting, he was releasing massive amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere in a short amount of time, which increases the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere significantly. Also, after Bob was finished deforesting, there are less plants to do respiration to change Bob's octuplet's breath back into oxygen. When Bob was populating the Earth, he created people that were breathing in oxygen and breathing out CO2, which is especially bad for Bob because he cut down the trees that would turn the CO2 back into oxygen. Also, because Bob's octuplets like to eat cow, they encourage cow raising, which releases methane into the air. When large companies make landfills, they trap microorganisms under them to decompose the trash, which causes microorganisms to fart methane, which is released into the atmosphere. Even though Bob's effects on the atmosphere were bad, so were the effects on the ocean from Bob's effects on the atmosphere. Because Bob was affecting the heat balance negatively by releasing greenhouse gases like CO2 and methane, the sunlight that changed wavelength when it hit the Earth got radiated into the atmosphere, started hitting other things like ice caps and speeding up the molecules in the ice caps. This causes the ice caps to change state from solid to liquid and cause rising sea levels. If the sunlight molecules do not hit the ice caps, they hit the oceans. And if they do hit the oceans, they speed up the water molecules, which causes the sea level to rise, because when water gets warmer, it expands. Lastly, if the sunlight molecules don't hit the ice caps or the oceans, they go into the atmosphere where they can't get past the greenhouse gases, which cause the Earth to get warmer, which in turn causes the oceans to evaporate faster, which means more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The effects on the oceans will also affect storms around the Caribbean. Storms will get stronger because fast-moving water molecules change state into a gas and store heat energy. When they condense in a storm, they release their heat into the storm, which gives energy to the already warm air near the water vapor to rise further, which causes a cooler wind to take its place. This causes wind. There will also be more rain in a storm than there is now, which contributes to how storms will be stronger. There will be more rain per storm because the temperature will be hotter, which allows more water to evaporate in less time, causing more rain per storm. Because the sea level would be rising, many homes along the coast would be destroyed and would cost billions of dollars to fix. Bob learned of what he was doing to Earth, so instead of switching to DirecTV like he was going to so that he wouldn't have to wait for the cable guy, Bob got rid of his television. If more people don't take even little steps like Bob did when he got rid of his television, storms will get stronger and they will destroy billions of dollars worth of homes, and many favorite beach spots won't be where they usually are because they'll be covered by rising